All the intent language does is declare that for purposes of Idaho Code Section 522 and purposes of Idaho Code Section 33-515-3, okay, that for purposes of the financial emergency, so that those can be used, that's all in the world it does. It doesn't mandate at all that the school districts have to do anything with that. All it says is that the conditions are met for that financial emergency, such that the state, in effect, declared it for them. They don't have to go declare it themselves.
And Sherry Wood with the Idaho Education Association was opposed to it, saying that some schools have large reserve balances. What's your response to that?
My response to that would be this. If, in fact, you owned any kind of an organization at all, and that organization had operating expenses on hand, which all good organizations, particularly the larger organizations, try to do, and you look down the road, you look down the economic road, and you saw a train wreck coming or a disaster coming. Now, prudence would tell you that well-managed organizations would immediately say, okay, first thing we're going to do is take our cash on hand and save that. The next thing we're going to do is put into place immediately a plan that addresses projected economic revenue loss. Okay, in other words, we're going to have less money to operate on in the next year, 18 months, 2 years. What kind of a plan do we put in place to address our expenditures, capital investments, payroll, benefits for salaried employees, etc.? And you would do that immediately. That plan would be put in place immediately. You would keep your reserves back, and you wouldn't spend those in case you misjudged the economic situation, in case the economic situation lasted longer than it typically would. And so this idea that you should force someone down to spend down their reserves before they put a plan in place that address the economic situation that we find ourselves in is just simply not prudent. I mean, to put it kindly.
Okay. And then you were one of the lawmakers in charge of putting together the Medicaid budget today.
Correct.
And you basically identified, I think it was about $42 million in savings that you'd like to see the governor and the Department of Health and Welfare find in Medicaid savings.
I don't think I would like to see them. The situation dictates that we must find that much savings. Now, half of that savings is one time, because the way we're going to get out of FY10 is to simply not pay bills for about the last 3 weeks of the month. So that's a one-time carryover that they are going to have to address in the following year. The other, however, is ongoing revenue that must be reduced from the base budget ongoing. And so, yes, although it is a total of dollars that must be found in that period of time, the ongoing is the most difficult. And the intent language that put in was designed to try to give them guidelines on how to find a solution for that.
And I talked with Health and Welfare Director Richard Armstrong. He said he's not sure if they can find all of those, if they can find that much savings.
Well, Dick is being cautious. I understand that. Director Armstrong is being cautious, and I understand his concern there. But I have a great deal of faith in Director Armstrong. The other thing we did is we put a provision in the intent language that allowed the Department of Health and Welfare to look at statutory changes that would need to be made. And because we're a part-time we're a part-time legislature, and we're going to be gone, we gave the governor the authority to be able to, in effect, change that statutory language by allowing the department to promulgate rules different than that statutory language during the time that we're gone. Then they have to bring those rules back when we come back to town in the next legislative session, and we will approve those rules or disapprove those rules. Also, the department is directed to bring back to the germane committees any changes that they think should be made permanent, ongoing, and then we can change the statutory language permanently. So I think it's a good plan. I think it'll work well, and I think we'll accomplish the savings that we need.